Welcome to the Think Fitness Life podcast, where we bring the mind, body, and gym together towards so you can improve your health or increasing your performance. And live your free 30-minute call today for more information. Visit thinkfitnesslife.com. Here are your hosts, Matt Gluckman and Eric Menchie.
And stuff, but there's an underlying cause. They don't have any purpose in life, and life's controlling them. So I developed and trademarked the method called the IZOD method, which actually means in the zone on demand. And being in the zone is not just for top athletes, it's for anybody who wants to master the skills. So basically I teach them to lay the foundation, which is find their purpose, regain control of their life, because in most people life's controlling them, and then making a plan, a strategy, surrounding yourself with the right people, which is all foundational, and then upgrading the body, which is biohacking strategies and technologies. But most importantly, what most people forget is upgrading the mind, being in control of your emotions, being able to get in the right brainwave, being able to get into the zone. And today there's many, I believe, technologies out there that facilitate that happening. 2 decades ago, me as a competitive swimmer and world record holder, it was hard. They just said meditate, and that's not always easy. But today we have breath work, we have visualization, we have brain tap, and all kinds of other things that kind of gives us quick results, and be able to also control that mind, which controls the body and also our destiny. So that's a synopsis of the 500 some pages.
Right. Well, so we'll dive into that. But kind of start out, where did you kind of start? How did you start out in this field? You said you were an athlete. How did this become this book?
I grew up in Belgium. Everybody can hear my accent. Single family home. Mother had to work hard to make ends meet for me and my brother. I went to the University of Brussels. I started doing physical education because I was into sports. It was fun. But what are you going to do with that degree? So I decided to continue and get my degree in physical therapy. And then I traveled with the Belgian Olympic swim team in preparation for the Olympic Games in Atlanta in 1996. And that's when I really got exposed to, top performance, trying to get the edge, supplements and those types of things. At the time, it wasn't biohacking yet, but biohacking just means trying to get an advantage, right? No matter how. And so that was kind of my introduction. And then after the Olympic Games, I was asked to come and work in the United States as a physical therapist because they were short of therapists. So I saved $400, packed my backpack, put my jeans on, and came over here to live the American dream. Needless to say, without a coach and a mentor, I got knocked down quite often. And so my motto quickly became, I never lose, I win or I learn. And so long story short, from that moment on, I went back to school to the Florida College of Integrative Medicine because I saw that conventional medicine really didn't give the results I was looking for. So I thought, okay, let's learn some more quote unquote alternative modalities, which are really not alternative. They're the original ones, right? But I got my doctorate in Oriental Medicine, board certified in Chinese herbs, homeopathy, my license in acupuncture, and all that good stuff. But unfortunately, after about another 1,000 patients, I realized that these modalities are indeed less invasive than conventional medicine, meaning drugs, injections, and surgeries, but I really didn't get the long-lasting results either. So that's when I had to go back to basics, and I decided to get my PhD in holistic nutrition, but also really look closely at Mother Nature, especially animals in the wild, because Mother Nature doesn't lie, and see what the animals in the wild were doing. And so many times when you just ask yourself what they are doing, you come up with the solution or the answer, which usually is opposite to what your doctor would recommend to you. So with that PhD in holistic nutrition and looking at, Mother Nature, I started to feel very confident I can help people no matter what their medical condition or diagnosis. And so from there on, I did a lot of writing. I have 8 books. I did a lot of keynote speaking. I was a CEO of a regenerative medicine clinic where we did stem cell based injections, shockwave therapy, those types of things, even for top athletes like NFL players, heavyweight champion boxers, etc. I own some anti-aging clinics. And then COVID came, right? So COVID gave me the time to think a little bit about what's my passion, and even all those things led me here. I really feel my passion is educating and helping people, and I like to do that on a larger scale. So I'm building my speaking business again, wrote this last book, which is a little bit broader than just health. It has to do with purpose of life, taking control, how to focus, how to fight the dopamine overload, how to be productive, and how to get into the zone. And so I'm trying to get more speaking engagements. I'm a mentor and a coach because I feel at this point in my life, I can really help people show pitfalls, make them accountable, and realize their goals in their dreams, whether that's health wise or whether it's in their business. I have a corporate program, whether it's a corporation or whether it's in personal life. So that's where I am today, and that's what I'm doing today.
Quite the resume. So during COVID time, is that when you started this book, or what kind of gave you the idea to start that IZOD method?
Yeah. Well, it's a good question because during COVID, I was actually writing another book, which I didn't finish yet. I was going to try to make a simple book on the protein paradox, because especially in the gym, I always get that question, vegan, veggie proteins, animal proteins, and we got those two camps, right? And so I wrote some articles on it, but I wanted to write a book on it. And then a friend, doctor of me, asked me to help out during COVID to doing pre-screening calls for medical marijuana, and I could do it from home. I said, sure, I help out, because they were getting really busy. And so that's when I really started to talk to a lot of people. And to my astonishment, there's so many people with anxiety, depression, PTSD, worry, anxiety. And yes, there's drugs out there and supplements out there and even therapists out there, right? But
Mhm.
when talking to them an extra 2 minutes, I really figured out there's a much deeper underlying cause, and that's they're lost in life. They don't have a purpose. So they have a job. They're bossed around by their boss. They come home. They got to bring their kids to soccer. Their wife or their partner needs things. And simultaneously, they're bombarded with about 14,000 digital messages per day. So so we are basically subject to our calendar, our agenda, our life. We're not in control anymore. And obviously, when people have to worry what tomorrow brings, when people have to worry about finances, and they don't really have a plan, an agenda, don't know what tomorrow brings, next week bring, next month or next year brings, anybody would be anxious, anybody would be uncertain and worrying about tomorrow and the next week. And those negative emotions obviously turn then in conditions such as anxiety, depression, stress, PTSD, and you name it. So I believe that the far majority of people simply can be helped by talking to them, and it could go fast, about purpose. Just having them stop for a moment and talk about what they dreamt about, the superpowers they dreamed about as a kid, or about their passions and their purpose and how they got away from it. And that's easy to find out how they got away from it, because usually it's society from the day we're born pushes in a certain direction. We got to go to school, then we got to go to high school, then we got to go to college and get a degree, and then we got to work for somebody else till we're 65. And hopefully we can afford an RV and enjoy the golden years, is what they call it, right? Or our parents push us a certain direction, or our teachers, because if dad's a lawyer, he probably wants you to go to law school. If mom's a doctor, they probably want you to go to med school. But nobody actually asked what you wanted to do, or you didn't ask yourself even, and see what your passions and belief systems are, and your values, and what would make you happy, and how you could contribute to this world, what your purpose is. So the first thing is I help people with exercises and communication to figure out, and usually it may only take an hour, tops a week, to really find those passions and fires in their stomach. And then we just need to slowly transition into it, because people obviously cannot just give up their job and stop paying bills and taking care of their family. And that's usually their first objection. But I tell them we don't have to do that. We just need to look at how much time you're wasting each and every day, and just free up 1 hour, so we can 1 hour a day work on that purpose and slowly transition into it again. And so that's kind of the first step, is that purpose. And I guess it was talking to hundreds of people with depression, anxiety, PTSD, that kind of told me, like, I gotta write a different book that will have a much larger impact than proteins.
Right. Well, that sounds interesting to me, but definitely with the COVID times, the pandemic, we saw depression, anxiety, stuff like that went through the roof. And I think a lot of people did lose their purpose in life and didn't see, because life basically stopped for a lot of people or shut down. You couldn't see that. So, what are kind of the techniques or the exercises you mentioned to kind of get people to kind of find their purpose or kind of dig deep into their deep waters of what they want?
Yeah, it just, I ask them the right questions. I can give you a few examples and an exercise if you like. So the first thing I do is I figure out if they're living their purpose right now or not, because all of people think they are living their purpose because they went to med school and then they're a great brain surgeon, or they, went to law school and they're providing for the family and making good money, and so they think they're living their purpose because they're successful, but that's two different things, right? So the first thing I ask them is when you get up in the morning, what goes through your mind? Is it, I gotta get up, I gotta go to work, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, and I gotta go to the gym? Or when you get up, is it more like, I get to get up, I get to get to work, I can't wait to do this, I can't wait to go to the gym? Which one is it? And unfortunately, most people, it's the first one, right? And so whether you're successful, whether you can pay your bills, whether everything's going right for you, does not necessarily mean you're living your purpose. So that's kind of the first little thing that I make them aware of. Like, even though everything's fine and they don't have big stresses in life, that doesn't necessarily mean they're living their purpose. Number two, and that doesn't always work, but it's worth asking, what were the superpowers you dreamt about when you were a kid? Who did you want to be? And people would say like, oh, I always wanted to be a pilot. And then I say, okay, does it still, is something that's on your mind, thinking about it? Does it still give you some fire in your stomach? Is it something that you felt you missed out on? And then sometimes they start telling stories and you feel them, get them excited again, and they may be 45 today, right? And sometimes it's totally not, they want it to be something, but they have zero interest in that right now. So it may or may not be still that same thing. Because when we're kids and we think about superpowers and who we want to be, we have no doubt in our mind at that time that we actually could be that person, until somebody, most likely our parents, tell us it's impossible. And so many of us then settle for ordinary, right? We take their ill advice, actually. And then the other thing I do is I do exercises. And so if you want, I can do one. It takes a little bit, but I do exercises with them where I'll walk them through a few steps, and then they kind of realize what their purpose and passion is as a result of an exercise.
And for that, is that done in one kind of session, 1 hour, or does that take a couple
No,
sessions,
these
days, or?
three things I just talked about, that can be done in one session, and sometimes we kind of reignite and find that passion just within that one session. And for other people, it may be a few sessions, but usually from 1 day to 1 week, we find that purpose. And again, it doesn't mean that their current job or credentials or whatever it is aligns with that purpose. But then we're just going to work on it 1 hour, 1 hour a week, and then gradually with incremental steps, create more time and kind of transition from whatever they're doing back into their purpose. But while we do that, I have to come over objections with my clients, of course, and I have to really also educate them about the comfort zone and what to expect, because when they're going to slowly make that transition, their family, their wife, their friends, they're all going to talk them out of it or say, you're crazy, or you're doing good as a lawyer. Why would you want to go work for, this company to help people with this company? Whatever it may be, everybody's going to talk them out of that. So in order to be successful, I have to educate them about the comfort zone, the growth zone. I'm going to have to prepare them that the family and the friends are going to say those things. But the reason why they say it's not because they're ill-willed or they don't want the best for you. Their comfort zone includes you. You're part of their
Right.
zone, and therefore they don't want you to leave their comfort zone, right? And as long as my mentee understands that and is prepared for that, there's a much better chance that we are going to succeed. So that's kind of the first part: is purpose, education, comfort zone, growth zone, those types of things.
Yeah, that comfort zone is the hardest thing because even my athletes have that, and it takes a while to break them through understanding what that is. It's even though it could be barriers, but most of the time it's invisible, right? It's all mental, but to see them struggle with that zone and
Yeah, it's
understanding
mostly
the
mental, and that's why,
right,
working on the mind's important. Your belief system, eliminating far core beliefs, as you know, because you do that with your clients. But also, it's, I think a lot of it's education. If they know what to expect, if you get out of your comfort zone, you first get into the fear zone. Then
yeah,
you transition into the learning zone, new skills, and then you're in the next growth zone. But that growth zone eventually becomes what? The next comfort zone, which then you got to leave again if you want to continue to grow. Surround yourself with new people that are in another growth zone above you. That's what you got to surround yourself with, and you got to keep climbing and get out of those comfort zones. And once you do it once or twice, it becomes almost like a game that you want the next growth zone to be your next comfort zone as soon as possible, so you can take that next hurdle to growth. And so, but I think it's very important for anybody, even if you have the knowledge, to have somebody like you or I to make them accountable on a weekly basis, to take those small incremental steps. Because most people have big dreams and goals, and it's great, because if your dreams do not scare you, they're not big enough, right? But knowing that, we can't make this an overwhelming thing, because people have those false core beliefs. Well, this is my dream, but I can't do that because I'm not like him or her, or I'm not like Tony Robbins, or I'm not like, whoever it is that's successful. So we got to eliminate the false core beliefs, and we got to take those small incremental steps that are attainable within short periods of time. And as you know, if we take an incremental step each and every day, it's amazing on how quickly we achieve something that on the way to our dreams that we even never thought we could achieve, just in a few weeks, because we actually worked an hour each day on our dreams.
Right. It's that even training that fear zone, it has to get normalized. And I think a lot of people can't normalize it, or they're not prepared for it. And when it happens, it hits them quick, and it's
got to
the end.
become
But
a skill.
100% that growth has to happen once you start to normalize it. And it's an always cyclical process. You don't just get to the comfort zone of a new learning and stay there. It's always got to be the next step. And for you, kind of, so we got purpose down. We understand purpose in life. What is that next step in the
Next step,
method?
or part of that first step, because the IZOD method is 3 steps. So the first step is what I call foundation. So it's purpose of life,
Okay.
our comfort zone. But now we need to take control of our life. So we need to take control of our agenda, of our calendar. And so we identify where they're wasting a lot of time during the day. They come home, they're tired, they sit in the couch, they watch useless TV, they're on social media. They wanted to only go on 2 minutes, but now it's suddenly an hour because they're responding to useless stuff on social media. And there's maybe other things that they're wasting time, or they're scheduling 1 hour meetings while decisions can be made in 15 minutes. So we identify where they're really wasting a lot of time, and then repurpose that to, like I said, our new goals and dreams. So that's number one. Number two, we identify where they're struggling. Do they have a lack of focus? Are they a procrastinator? Do they fidget? Are they unable to finish a job or a project? And what are the causes there? Because my book has a lot of tips and strategies to restructure that. If it's, for example, if it's lack of focus, I got to identify why can't you start, why you're procrastinating, why can't you focus? So my first questions with them is, so where's your workspace? Oh, you're in the living room in front of TV while the kids and the dogs are running around. Well, that may be a problem. Maybe we got to start with basics, which is assigning a workspace in your office or at your house. And when you start working a project, let everybody know not to disturb you. And then there's this little devil called an iPhone or a smartphone, right? And it's like when you're gonna work on a project, you can use this if you needed to find something or to call somebody or ask a question. But otherwise, you need to put this off on airplane mode, because you cannot anybody to just interrupt you while you're doing your job, because then you become their subject. And then there's many different techniques. You probably have heard of the Pomodoro technique, which basically says you are focused 20 or 25 minutes. You set a timer, no phone, no distractions. You're focused. When the timer goes off, a mandatory 5-minute break, not 4 minutes 55, not 5 minutes. And you go back in again, 20, 25 minutes. And you repeat that cycle 4 or 5 times. It's amazing on how much you can get done with simple techniques like that. And it works for some people, it doesn't work for other people. So again, we're going to hone in on where their struggles are. Many times it's a dopamine overload, right? They're controlled by their social media, and we're only going to use social media if it fits in our goals and dreams, and otherwise we're just going to get totally rid of that. So we need to take control. And many times I have to explain to people why they have a brain fog and why they can't focus, because it's the dopamine overload, which basically means dopamine is in excess compared to the other 4 intelligence hormones, which is serotonin, acetylcholine, epinephrine, norepinephrine, because we only can focus and be in the zone if those 5 intelligence hormones are optimized and in balance. So dopamine, for your listeners, they probably already know, but it's your reward hormone. When your brain squirts a little dopamine, it feels good. It's like getting a pat on the back. That's why many people eat bad foods and drinks, energy drinks, sugary water. It's a little squirt of dopamine, feels good. And then, of course, social media, anybody that comments on your post or hearts your Instagram, it's a dopamine squirt. And that's why we keep looking for more, because it's an addiction. So as soon as we educate them and you understand that's why they have the brain fog, and that's why the average attention span today is only 6 seconds. So we lost everybody already.
Yep.
uh, then we can work on that. Then we can justify why we need to upgrade your diet, why we need to get rid of the Red Bulls and the coffee, and why we need to get control over that social media so we can focus again, and we can get rid of that brain fog and things like that. And we hone in on many different things. So ultimately, we want to script their life. We want to see what works from them, and then we're gonna make them and customized power routines, a morning routine, an evening routine. Myself, I have a biohacking routine and a dream routine. So I have 4 power routines during the day that work for me each and every time, that I can count on. So many times I share them as a template, but I tell people this is not going to work for you. We got to find out what works for you and what you can count on each and every day. And by working on that and creating those power routines, we now going to take control of life, of our calendar. We know what tomorrow brings, next week brings, next month brings, and control creates what? Clarity, and clarity gets rid of all stress. No more worry, no more anxiety, no more depression, because we know what's happening, we know what's coming. We're in total control. And so purpose, control, comfort zone, that's what I call the foundation.
Right, because like when you take away someone's, let's say, social media, their dopamine drip, do you see them kind of regress back into that slightly depressed, anxious state now that you just kind of took away a part of their identity or their dopamine kicks, and then that kind of cycle has to start over? Well, not start over, but you kind of got to take a step back and go 2 steps forward a bit.
Well, I think by combining it with the purpose, you overcome that, because the purpose gives you passion. And suddenly you realize, wow, I've been missing this. This is my person. And I'm going to be able to work on this at least 1 hour a day while I continue to do my job and pay my bills. But wow, I'm going to work on this with my coach, right? And so that's this fire and passion. And that kind of counteracts the negative emotions. There's fire, there's excitement, there's purpose, versus depression, worry, fear, I can't pay my bills. So I think getting rid of that overload is going to be able to get them excited and get them focused. And they also will be able to, in that hour, accomplish something that they're excited about. And
Right.
so I've not seen that
Okay.
dip, as you say, falling back into some kind of depression, because it's not that we need to deprive them from dopamine. We just need to balance all the hormones.
Yeah, maybe it's like a slight degree of change, but then I'm sure if their overall purpose will overcome that steadiness of getting non-dopamine. And just so people understand
Because
that
yeah,
the foundations, it doesn't happen simple. It can be a hard task to push through that comfort zone, and you start taking things away. There's smaller adjustments to make, and then you just keep going. I think a lot of people get this notion that, oh, this is going to be easy, one step, 1 2 3, but in those steps there might be some slight regression, but
of course,
overall it's that
yeah.
push.
And again, that's back to the comfort zone regressions. Different things, and things you're not used to. We gotta make them habits. But even the dopamine can be created by healthy lifestyle stuff too, right? We
Oh
know
yeah.
that iron, niacin, B6, folate, magnesium, they're all precursors of dopamine. So when we upgrade our diet, we're not gonna deprive ourselves necessarily from that dopamine.
Yeah, I've been big onto the niacin myself lately, kind of taking that for multiple reasons, but getting a lot of the way you said in the diet is key. And have you found a lot of your patients lacking those nutrients if they're eating
Yes,
more of a
yes,
processed
yes, they do.
normal?
Because, and again, even in a healthy diet, many times we lack them. That's why I do believe high quality supplements do become important. You mentioned niacin. Of course, we know it's necessary for the good blood flow,
Mhm.
etc. But also, it's a precursor to NAD plus, right? And so NAD plus, as we know, is the fuel for our innate DNA repair system. People don't understand that. Yes, we have free radical damage. Yes, we have systemic inflammation. Yes, we have electromagnetic frequencies and radiation that attack our DNA and damage our DNA on a daily basis. And as humans, we have an innate repair system. So you would think there wouldn't be a problem. The problem is that DNA repair system doesn't work in most of us because it needs fuel, and the fuel is NAD plus. So now it becomes important that we have ample amounts of NAD plus in our body. So niacin, tryptophan are precursors, and there's many other things that we can do, such as supplementing our IVs of NAD plus. But there's things that we can do to make sure we have enough NAD plus, so our own body can repair the DNA damage that is done as part of our metabolic processes, free radical damage, electromagnetic radiation frequencies, etc. And NADPH, also the battery of our cells.
Yeah, that's one of the most important things. And now is our full nutrition, complete nutrition supplements. Is that part of your biohacking routine? That is it. Let's go to the next foundation. What's that
Yes.
look
So
like?
the next step is gonna be short but important, and then the third step is biohacking, right? So the step
Okay.
number two of the IZOD method is, okay, we got our purpose, we retaking control, we educating comfort zone, you're excited. Now we need to realize that just like in any business, to be successful, we need a plan, a written plan. Now it doesn't have to be a business plan. We don't need to know the how-tos. We don't need to know the details, but we know the what's. What's the goal? What are the short-term goals, long-term goals? What are the incremental steps? What are your dreams? What are your biggest goals? And don't be afraid. And so we need to know the what's, and we need to write those down. So we have a game plan, and we have strategies to get those to those each of those intermittent goals. So we have to write that down, period. And again, could be down in an hour, could be down in a week if we have to think about certain things. And then an essential part of that is what most people forget, is we never ever can reach our highest potential by ourselves. So we need to start to surround ourselves with people that have been there, with like-minded people, new friends, maybe new networking things. But we also got to start making a list of what I call our team of experts. And experts don't have to be necessarily millionaires or billionaires or professionals. They could be a family member. They could be your existing secretary. Because what I'm going to do with them is, obviously, I'm going to really find out. Usually the purpose told me a lot of that, but what are your strengths? Where are you really strong? What is your superpower? And because we have been told many times in the feature to in the past to identify our weaknesses and work on them, and that's just a waste of time, because we're never going to be the best where we were weak, period, ever. We can get better, but it's such a waste of time. So I always tell, if these are your strengths, we're going to keep on working on them, because that's your superpower. We don't want to just step into your strengths. We need to unleash those so they become a superpower. And what we're going to do is, yes, we identify your weaknesses, but we're going to identify people that are strong where you are weak, and they suddenly become part of your team. Just like the Olympic Games, I give this example all the time because it's easy. It's 110-meter hurdles for the men or 100 for the women. They're not doing it by themselves. They have a running coach, they have a strength coach, they have a nutrition coach, they probably have a mental coach, they have support from their family, friends, they have a whole team around it. They have a functional medicine doctor. They got, I mean, who knows what they have, right? A whole team to make this happen. And so we need that same team if we want to unleash those superpowers and realize our dreams. And we need to then it's easy, because now these hurdles, these obstacles suddenly become opportunities. They become things that we're gonna attack, because we know where the finish line is, and we know that's our dream, and we know there's the world record, there's the gold medal, whatever it may be. So now we have that purpose, we have control, but now with the team, we feel complete, because I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do my finances. I don't know how to get on big stages. I don't know how. We identify the team, and now suddenly we have our team of experts, and now everything becomes like attainable. Now I can do this. And so each obstacle becomes like something we can't wake up in the morning and attack, versus, oh my God, an obstacle, I can't do this, it's not meant to be, and giving up. So that's the importance of step two. It's a plan, a strategy, and a team of experts. And then step three will be the upgrading of the body and the mind. The biohacking is step three.
So let's dive into that, because that's a huge topic now. I'm sure the ice baths, the saunas are a huge thing. Ice barrels are crazy right now. What are kind of things that you've done that you found work, things that you found that kind of really don't work?
Yeah. I'm considered a biohacking expert right now. I speak at biohacking congresses and conferences, etc. So what I do is I do go to those conferences, and like you said, it's hard to figure out what's real and what's not real, because everybody's allowed to get a booth and pander whatever they want to pander. So just like with any type of business or supplements, we really got to do a little bit of homework. So what I do is I get the information of everybody all the time. We stay on top of this. I got a local friend here who's my R&D guy. So I give them all the information, and he's going to do the calls to the company, certificates of analysis or research or whatever it is. And once he figures out it's not just something that's made in a garage and somebody's trying to pander something, we actually going to get the product or the equipment or whatever it may be, and we're going to take it ourselves and test it, or give it to close friends or people that may benefit from it and get the feedback. And once we scrutinized it and tried it ourselves and it works for us or for our clients, our close inner circle, that's when we start recommending it. I don't have my own products or I don't have my own technologies, because as a coach and mentor, I got to identify what my client needs. And that's usually based on where they are in their journey, because based on the different phases they're on in their journey, we're going to obviously progress. We're going to get rid of certain biohacking strategies and upgrading to other strategies. So there's great things out there. But when it comes to health, I usually have three phases. Number one, and unfortunately most people fall in there, we need to regain control of your health. So if people are overweight still, or they are in pain, or they have some medical diagnosis, we need to resolve that completely, and we got to get back to what we call normal, right? And unfortunately many times that's where we need to start, because we cannot start biohacking in a system, a body and a mind that's still in a state of emergency, putting out fires on a daily basis. The body's not going to respond. So we got to get back to normal. And I'm very confident we can do that with anybody, regardless of their medical diagnosis, as long as we look at the body as a whole and work on the body and the mind in sync. Step number two is, once we're back to normal, we want to get to optimal health, which means is we want people to be fit, to be strong, to be vital, to have energy. We want them to be in control of their physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual being. So we incorporate lifestyle modifications until we get there. And again, it's customized most likely. And then once we are in optimal health, that's step number three. And the last step, once we're in optimal health, that would be the ideal foundation to take or maximize the benefits of biohacking strategies. And biohacking has many definitions, but in my book, it just simply means upgrading your body and your mind and your life. And from a health perspective, it means we want to objectively reverse our biological age, increase our lifespan.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people jump the first two.
Yeah.
They don't go
that
normal
won't work.
or optimal, and they just start doing these biohacking techniques or these things thinking that it's going to absolve the other things. And I think that's, paramount to have people understand that you have to get things to normal, then you get optimal, then you can start doing these more measures to kind of create a better environment. And for what you've been kind of researching, what is coming out right now that's kind of going to be the trend in biohacking that you feel is going to be the new thing to go?
Yeah. Before I answer that, I think everybody needs to start with the 7 fundamentals, right? So we need to improve our air quality. There's many things we can do in and outdoors. For example, and on top of that, if you want, if the 7 foundations don't have to cost much money, but if you have money, we always can tell you what you should have. So in my house here, I have a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, and I have 100% oxygen. So yes, I need fresh air. But at the same time, if I can breathe in 100% oxygen and go in a hyperbaric chamber occasionally, that would be ideal. So that's oxygen. Number 2, water. So I'm looking at it right now. I have a home unit of hydrogen-infused water. Of course, it cleans the water because we don't want all that, toxins and metals in there. And we get many systems out there. But this particular one infuses hydrogen gas. And for those people who don't know how important hydrogen is for our health, just go to hydrogenstudies.com and you'll find out. So that's water. Then there's light, right? We need sunlight. We need to spend more time outdoors. I got hundreds of tips in my books on what you can do that no cost. Eat outside, go walk outside, play outside, go do more outdoor activities. But at the same time, I have a far infrared sauna in my, one of those foldable ones. It doesn't have to be one of those big footprint wooden things that cost thousands of dollars either. But I have a far infrared because it warms up in 30 seconds and I can sit in it after workout. So there's the light aspect. Then there's the then there's the heat and cold. You mentioned cold baths, cryotherapy. Amazing benefits to get that cold 3 minutes on your hypothalamus and reset your whole body, right? Amazing benefits have been shown. And so You can buy a $3, 4, $5,000 unit if that's what you want to do and have the things. But people, it doesn't have to cost money. You have a shower. Start with 10 seconds under the cold, then 15 seconds, and go 30 seconds and build up to 3, 4 minutes. And maybe then, when you're consistent and you think this benefits you, maybe then consider a payment plan for one of those expensive things. But you have a cold shower. Then there's movement. We don't have to go to the gym necessarily. We don't have to play organized sports, but we have to move. Our body is a system that needs movement. We have a circulatory system, but most people forget we also have a lymphatic system, which is our immune system. In other words, we are a plumbing system. And so we need to drink enough water to make that flowing, but at the same time, we need to move. So now we're talking about movement. So you don't want a sedentary job. You need to walk, you need to dance, you need to get up from your desk, you need to do all those things. But maybe a high frequency vibration platform wouldn't be bad either, of a mini trampoline and those types of things. And then we can talk about combining things like grounding. So now we have we're connected with Earth, and we are shielded from electromagnetic frequencies. We get negative ions that neutralize free radicals while we're outside in the sunlight, absorbing vitamin D and moving. So we can combine those things at no cost also. And then we have upgrading our diet, right? We need to slowly get away from man-made empty foods and go to wholesome organic foods, and identify our insurance policies, which are high-quality supplements that we need to upgrade our diet. So when we put those fundamentals together first, we have an amazing biohacking program that doesn't even have to cost much money. I downloaded an app for free from my friend, the Breath Source. It's the top breath masters in the world. It came out not too long ago. It's the most amazing app that I've ever had. And so breath work for me, obviously helps with my oxygen distribution, but also what an easy tool to get into a meditative state, because you can clear your mind by focusing on your breath. So for your listeners, check out the Breath Source. It's a new app, but all the breath masters of the world are on the same app right there. So many simple, easy think foundations. But to answer your question, if you have disposable income, there's great stuff out there. Like I said, hyperbaric oxygen. Now we got PEMF devices that only, like a beamer has, for example, 1 or 2 frequencies. But now there's PEMF devices that have the 4 million frequencies. We have Tesla technologies that you can put in your house that have those 4 million rifle frequencies, healing frequencies. So while you're working, while at your home, you can be healing. I've been sleeping on an anti-aging bed cover, which you simply plug in to the outlet. So while I'm sleeping, I'm grounding, and I'm protected from electromagnetic radiation frequencies, and I get some infrared heat at the same time. So I'm healing, and I'm recovering, and I'm biohacking, and it doesn't take any time. Besides that, we obviously have Brain Tap and other types of technologies. I don't know if you're familiar with Brain Tap. It's something that I use. It's basically an app with 2,800 I would say either binaural beats or music at a certain frequency, or a voice, a
Okay.
guided meditation. And you have a headphone on, but the crazy good stuff about this, there's red and blue light going through your eyelids and into your ears that
Really?
amazingly facilitate, together with that sound or that frequency, to get you either in an alpha, beta, theta, or delta zone. So at night, as part of my power routine, I do 15 or 20 minutes a deep, a deep delta sleep biotap session, and you can use it in the morning for focus or for pain, or 2,800 different things. So as meditation and getting in control of emotions and feelings used to be time consuming and difficult because you just had to go to a meditation class or try it yourself. Now there's breath work and there's technologies that facilitate us feeling a result pretty quickly. And once you feel it helps you, or you get in a different state of mind, you're pretty excited on continuing those journeys.
Yeah, and a lot of this stuff I tell a lot of my clients you can find on apps. It doesn't have to be this crazy
Or
expensive stuff.
YouTube videos.
Yeah, it's pretty readily available. So the listeners out, like, you don't have to go buy crazy things or do all this stuff. It's going to be, YouTube apps, stuff's for free. Trying to find those modalities.
Yeah, you can spend money, right? You can do peptides every month. You can do high-end infusions, not just your your regular vitamins and minerals cocktails, but like I said, glutathione, NAD plus. You can do exosome and stem cell infusions. Now you're spending a few $1,000s, and the more you do it, the better. So yes, there's other stuff out there that may work, but your body's going to respond much better if you put the fundamentals in place first. And once you start reaping the benefits, and you objectively, because the beauty of biohacking is we can measure this. With my clients, I do all kinds of tests, not just blood tests, but telomere lengthening tests, epigenetic methylation tests, all the things that we need. And then we implement our programs, our biohacking strategies, and after 3 or 6 or 9 months or whatever, we repeat those tests to see how effective our programs are, and we can actually objectively reverse our biological age, and now it becomes competitive, right?
So that's guys. So that's the last step, and then I take it you get out of that comfort zone, and then the cycle starts over again. The whole
Yeah,
method is just
purpose.
continuous.
The 1 and 2 is the foundation, the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
We keep doing that. And biohacking is non-ending, right? Because we continue to upgrade our body and our mind. With our mind, we teach visualization, manifestation. And part of the purpose is, even if your team and even if you have your purpose and you're excited, we still need to work on the mind, because the difference between Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and the rest, and this is just an example, is because they never had a bad game. They may have lost the game, but usually it's because of their teammates. Um, and they're millionaires also. So what's the difference? They're in the zone on demand. That means is they have the end in mind. So when they when they miss a shot, or when somebody steals their ball, it does not affect the next play. They only have the end in mind, and that's why they're so great, because they're able to turn this zone thing on and off. And so the IZOD method, these 3 steps, especially step 3 with the brain, we teach people to turn it on and off so they can be in the zone, they can bring their A game, they can fire on all cylinders, they can crush their competition, they can kill that presentation on stage, whatever it is they want to do. And that's where upgrading the mind comes in, with what we just talked about, brain tap, but we need to control emotions. There's simple techniques for that, and skills that we can develop. And we need to eliminate false core beliefs. And we need to get to a point where there's no doubt in our mind that we're going to reach those goals and those dreams. Because if there's a little bit of doubt, even only a little bit, even, then the universe has 2 options: failure, success. If there's no doubt, the universe only has one option: a big win. And so we continue to work with our clients on making sure there's no doubt at all in their mind that this is what's going to happen. It's assuming the feeling it already happened. And that's why the universe then only has one option.
Love it. Well, great method. And then is the book, you can find it on Amazon?
Yeah, the book is on Amazon. It's called The IZOD Method, Unleash Your Superpower. For most people, you can also get it on my website. My website is the one place where you can get to everything. You can get to my books. You can get to my speaking bio. You can get to my mentorship programs. You can schedule a free Zoom call that doesn't cost you anything to just talk to me to see if I can help you. You can subscribe to my newsletter for free. Everything's there. Our Costa Rica biohacking with breathwork VIP trips coming up. Check out the retreats, and it's all at the biohackingunlimited.com. Biohackingunlimited.com.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned earlier your other book and kind of got me intrigued, The Protein Paradox. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. What brought you to that kind of title or that thinking?
Well, it's because, I go to the gym and I talk to people, and we have the gym mentality of obviously preparing our lean chicken breast with the broccoli, and using those big cans of whey protein or isolate whey,
Mm-hmm.
eating that meat. And so many times I get into discussions, and so I thought I'll need to overcome that. And I have friends and I have very intelligent doctors that really feel and swear by the meat. But often I just feel I have to go back to, to biology and physiology, because biology and physiology, clearly shows that we are not meat eaters. Again, do I eat meat on occasion? I don't eat meat at home. I don't cook it at home. If I go to a restaurant and I feel like I want a filet, guess what? I'm going to get a filet. So I don't classify myself as a vegan or vegetarian. I classify myself as aware. And so I feel there's plenty of research, but also simple biological facts that will show that are undisputable, because it's biological and physiological, that we're not meat eaters, you know.
What research has kind of shown that? I'm curious now. Can you send some stuff over?
Well, there's lots of research on there. Well, first of all, there's um, I'm looking at the article I just wrote, which I can share. Um, there's lots of research out there. Obviously, when it comes to meat and disease, right? So a lot of meat, or especially red meat, we increase triglycerides, high cholesterol, animal protein, increased risk for heart disease, obesity, cancer. I mean, uh, there's no discussion there. Number two, meat is very acidic. In other words, we need a lot of valuable alkaline minerals to buffer meat, not just meat, anything that's acidic like soda, energy drinks, and you name it. Um, at the same time, um, I would say, if you look at the differences between meat eaters and humans, we have a whole list of things that indicate that we are not meat eaters. We could start. I'm looking here. There we go. We could start that way. I can go over it here. This is an article that I wrote. You can see. I can share it, a link on your podcast, but I can share it with you. But
Yeah, if you share
basically,
share it in the chat, we'll put it on the podcast.
yes, I have it all listed, but it's our teeth. People think that our teeth here are canines. They're not
Hmm.
canines. They're grain teeth. Um, our liver, our digestive tract, for example. All flesh eaters' digestive tract is very short because proteins putrefy very quickly, and all grain and vegetable eaters have a very long digestive system to take care and digest vegetables and grains. Another quick example, is the enzymes, our saliva, the enzymes that are used to break down flesh. If we look at flesh eaters, they don't just eat the meat or the muscle part, they eat the bones, the feathers, the skin, the intestines, the organs. They eat everything because that's where the proteins are. Also, a flesh eater attacks the prey and eats it immediately because then those proteins don't denature. But think about this chicken breast. By the time you eat it, how long has the chicken been dead? And so, why does it still look good? Same with salmon and fish, right? Is because if we wouldn't pour bleach basically over it and put it in a cooler and in a distribution center, within 24 hours, it's totally eaten up by bacteria and it's turned back to dust and it will be looking brown and black, right? And so what we do is when we slaughter animals, we pour bleach over it, we put it in coolers, and then 2 weeks later it ends up in Publix or whatever shop, and then it's injected with all types of colorings and fillers, so it looks fresh again. But it's not fresh; it's been dead for at least 2 weeks. And then we, as humans, flesh eaters, we're gonna cook it, right? And so the question is, how much burden is this on the digestive system to break down? How many proteins are still vital and not denatured, and how much of that is then absorbed? And so that's another thing to think about. It's also, if you think about all the animals, they're just a middleman when it comes to meat, because where do animals get their proteins from? Green vegetables, right? That's where we get all the proteins from. That's They don't produce proteins, they eat them, and then they become the middleman for us, basically. And so this is just a few biological, physiological facts that cannot be disputed. We can talk about the pros and cons all the time. And usually I get two objections. I can address those quickly. Number one, well, Mike, it's obvious we need B12, and B12 only can be obtained from animal protein. Well, you
Right.
got to do a little bit dig a little bit deeper and do more research, because the reasons animals have B12 is because B12 comes from bacteria that are found in fresh water, in rivers and streams, and is also found in dirt, in the ground. So that's where the B12 comes from, and that's why animals absorb it. Now, if we go back to Mother Nature and we would, eat the plants coming from the dirt, and we would get our fresh water from streams where we meant to get it from, right? That's how humans used to get their B12. So, but now it even shows that meat eaters don't get their B12 or deficient in B12. Why? Because the cows and the the um, the pigs obviously don't, are out in the pasture anymore, and they don't drink from the stream. They're farmed, so they're deficient in B12 themselves. So B12, whether you're a meat eater or not, you need to supplement unless you drink water from a stream or eat some dirt, right? And then the other I get is always our ancestors killing the with the spears, the mammoth,
Right.
stuff like that. Well, you got to remember our ancestors only lived to be 25 years old. So their primary concern was is make babies and then they could die, right? Because it's protecting their species. So right now we live to be 60, 70, 80, and even 100 years old. So our ancestors didn't have to worry about long-term effects of their diets. They just didn't have to worry about cardiovascular disease or building up cholesterol or getting a heart attack when they're 60 because they only live to be 25, right? And so many times we also see that the reason they hunted is because they were in the winter or everything was covered with snow and there was a scarcity of plants and vegetables in that period of time. If we look at our ancestors before they invented and made tools, they survived very well on just vegetables and fruits and grains and roots. And then there's still a misconception still that when they actually discovered our ancestors and they saw the spears and the tools, we assumed that they were meat eaters. But with recent studies where they measure strontium levels of the DNA of these bones, in other words, we went back to these same bones and discoveries and used new technology where we measure strontium levels, we found that they were, regardless the tools they had, primarily vegetable and fruit eaters. Yes, they had tools, but we made the wrong conclusions that they would be carnivores. So those are some of the things that I have in my article. Again, I'm not necessarily have a opinion. I have many friends, doctors, physicians that swear by meat. I think it's a mistake in the long run. They feel good by it. But research-wise, again, cardiovascular disease, triglycerides, even the WHO, which usually I don't care about what they say or the FDA say, because it's all propaganda, but they list processed meats as a class one carcinogen alongside tobacco and asbestos. So, many reasons to reconsider meat consumption. And that's just biologically. Physiologically, we know also that meat and the fish farming is a tremendous, poses a tremendous impact on our environment. And so that's maybe another reason people got to look into it.
And kind of right, playing devil's advocate, there's always people that listen and then they love to come back and say, well, what about the protein hypothesis theory, and you need protein for muscle? What, when you get kind of clients that might say that, what kind of do you kind of guide them towards, or like someone who wants to gain a lot of muscle,
Yeah,
on that kind of
well,
thought process?
it's actually very simple. It's a misconception. There's a few misconceptions here. Number one, unless you're a gym rat and you're competing or you're a competitor, yes, you need to replace the protein that you break down, because exercising is a catabolic event. You break
Right.
them down. So in order for you to benefit from it, you need to not only recover, you need to build up. So yes, you need your amino acids, right? Not necessarily proteins. You need the building blocks of the proteins, amino acids. Now, if you're your average person that just lives an average life, I think you don't need that much protein. Our protein requirements are high when we are growing up. Once we're full grown, protein requirements are not as much as we think they need to be. Again, unless you are breaking your body down as an athlete, you need proteins. Number one. Number two, again, meat is the middleman. They get their proteins from green plants, from beans, from whatever Mother Nature provides. People would say that it's harder to get them from those or the right amounts, and it's totally wrong. You can do your research. Avocados, nuts, green leaf vegetables. And again, if you're taking a protein shake anyway, I always have a green protein shake. That's my protein shake. It's not just green peas, it's hemp, it's green peas, it's alcanza, it's chia seeds. Everything's in there. And I get as many proteins as anybody else. In fact, I believe I can get a lot more proteins because the proteins that come from plants are recognized by the body and are absorbed at a much higher rate. Their bioavailability is much better than whey protein, casein, or animal protein, in my opinion. Um, Not only that, but my body will utilize far less essential nutrients to break down these proteins coming from plants in order to them to be absorbed by the small intestine and go to a cellular level. While if I eat a chicken breast or get a animal protein or whey protein, the digestive process is much more involved. So many times, people fake things thinking it as a benefit, but sometimes you need to look at the balance. What does your body require to break it down? And many times we end up in a negative balance.
Right. And it's always very interesting because especially nowadays you have, the carnivore diet and you have this side of the organ meats and protein, and then the other side. So it's always interesting to see. And right. And there's got to be a balance. I always say there's got to be a balance somewhere. There can't be two ends of the spectrum that go crazy. But, if someone wants to look like Arnold, you're going to have to take a lot of protein, right?
Well, but for those listeners who watching, since you mentioned Arnold, look at the watch the I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but it's called a documentary called The Game Changers or Game Changers. And so it talks about meat protein versus vegetable protein. And so even Arnold in his young days obviously was nothing but raw eggs and meat.
Right.
So he changed his total opinion on that in that Game Changers documentary. It has its flaws, but it's an interesting concept. And there's some interesting, tests done on top athletes all over the world. So, it's a good one to watch. Let's put it that way. It's called The Game Changers.
Right. Well, we appreciate you having you on. And where can people find you? So we got your website. Are you on Instagram, social medias?
Everything's there. Yeah, I'm Facebook, Instagram, but the Facebook, not Facebook. My website is the best because from there you can get anywhere. My YouTube channel is on the homepage and things like that. So biohackingunlimited.com. If you go to I just checked. If you go to the resources page of my website, there's one page is resources A to Z. You can find the article that I wrote not too long ago on the meat.
Perfect. We'll have to go check that out. Yeah. We'll appreciate you having you on.
All right. Thanks. Appreciate it.
If you're ready to make steps towards improving your health or increasing your performance, book a free 30-minute call today by visiting thinkfitnesslife.com.